So I'm very excited to see a lot of people not like this chapter because there's not enough action. Where's Fami? Where's war? Why is there so much dialogue? Why do I have to read? Look, I understand people don't like part 2, and I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I talked about this last week and some of you seem to be a little bit confused by it, but there is a loud majority of people that don't like the direction of where this story is going. And look, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. If you don't like the story, you don't like it. I ain't gonna try and change that for you. However, to claim that it's bad or that it's worse or claim that it's doing this or this poorly is really weird to myself, because part 2 has pulled off some of the biggest things that authors are so scared of doing. Not only have we changed magazines, we've changed the style of story, right? This already is a red flag. No author would be able to do this successfully. It's not just something that happens naturally, it's a way to kill your story. The only other author I can think of that has parted their story successfully out of nowhere that you just genuinely wouldn't expect and change the tone is Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re. Chainsaw Man has done something very similar and has even jumped to a completely different magazine to change the tone of the story, and you have gotten some of the best character development, some of the most subtle and moodiest kind of emotion swirling around this world and these feelings, and for me it is a beautiful experience, and it's still Chainsaw Man, it's just different. This is something that Fujimoto has always wanted to write, and you can tell like this is his prime. This is what he's extremely good at doing. If you've read any of his one-shots, this is where he shines. Don't get me wrong, the original chaoticness being so out there was super addicting but very difficult to control, and he done a brilliant job with that. But there is only so much of that style of content you can take, and I think he almost reached his limit. That's why he had to balance it really well with these super dark and super emotional and these beautiful characters to help keep it afloat and balance nicely as much as possible. Chainsaw Man Part 2 is kind of like the complete opposite. Instead, you're getting this character study on an individual's everyday life sprinkled with this bit of action, so it is less chaoticness and more controlled. Again, if you don't like it, by all means, 'tis all you. For all of us that remain that really enjoy it, we are feasting. We are eating so well, and as small as this chapter is, it's only 15 pages, it gives you some of the best dialogue for Asa. It brings up so many different questions and mysteries surrounding this situation, surrounding the fake Chainsaw Man, surrounding Yoshida, and even Denji. Apologies for that little rant, but where do we begin? I'm going to start with Harumi. Is that his name? I keep forgetting his name. It hasn't really clicked into my head yet. This is the fake Chainsaw Man, right? It has been a couple of days now since they've been within this aquarium, this eternity. They have theorized that time has stopped, so no help is technically on the way. They can't just sit this out, they genuinely have to escape. But obviously the situation is very different. This isn't just the normal Eternity Devil that is trying to seek something naturally. Compared to part 1, obviously they wanted Denji's heart. This time it is manufactured, or more so artificially designed, by Fami. Fami seems to be the one in control, and the only thing most likely break the Eternity Devil's construct is Asa turning Denji into a weapon. Now we know that this isn't a possibility. This is not something that Asa can do, emotionally, mentally, physically. So it puts all of them in a weird position. This theoretically is the only way to get out by the task that is required by the Eternity Devil. No one else knows this. So even Denji, when he explains that there's no task to actually do to accomplish it, we're just doing nothing. We're just waiting. Because they've been in here for so long, running out of time and resources, Asa's very confrontational. She doesn't care. She has this confrontation with the fake Chainsaw Man. We actually find out what he is, and I don't actually believe it. So Asa questions him, why don't you do something? Why don't you get us out of here? And he says that it is just a surgical implant. And I'm like, what? I'm confused. Turns out he's just a massive fan of him. Even gives a whole process of elimination on why he has it to begin with, and everything that he's done Chainsaw Man related, he's just a big fan. But I don't believe it. Obviously he's not the Chainsaw Man, but I do think he is a version or a variation, whether it be weed whacker or, whippersnipper or lawnmower, I don't know, whatever, like some sort of handheld saw device that is similar to Chainsaw Man but not identical, much weaker. Or it could be the other version where he quite literally is the original Chainsaw Man devil that has been reborn back into the earth, that is different to Pochita and like that version of the Chainsaw Man devil. There's a whole, I guess, kind of semantic bucket there that you could go through that why that would or wouldn't work, but he seems weird. I want to believe that his ability in this quote-unquote surgical implant is supplied to by Fami. Maybe he doesn't even know that he's doing all of this. Like, what if he is a sleeper agent? Let's just put it like that, right? What if every single Devil Hunting Club member right now that has any sort of trinket related relating to Fami, because she has the exact same earrings, are sleeper agents that she can control, that she could activate whenever she wants just as weaponry. Maybe they don't even realize that, and they just go about living their everyday life thinking this or that. Bit of food for thought, but I enjoy their very simple conversation, and it does bring up some pretty interesting questions. He has a very big ego for someone that really can't do anything, and even laughs in the face of the real Chainsaw Man, saying that if he was, he'd get us out of here in no time, just laughing until he actually screams for Chainsaw Man's help, which is kind of funny because by instinct this is the best way to get yourself killed. So I don't know if this is foreshadowing. I don't know if this is going to happen in the future sometime. Whenever Denji's in his full armor form, if you were to say this, you would theoretically die. The only person that has ever lived that we know of is Kobeni, and that is because Kobeni satisfied some wishes or some dreams that Denji had, which Pochita pursued. So do you see what I mean? There's a lot of give take here that plays into some pretty wild future elements or implications, at least, if it does go down that route. But at the moment, it just seems kind of funny that we're all just playing into these pre-existing ideas really well. I like how Yoshida is kind of a bit of an instigator here. He doesn't really do anything, but he just seems off. Like, I don't know who he's working for or what his motive is, but I think this chapter slightly clears it up while still adding more mystery. This is where we get the information that Denji can't do anything because the Eternity Devil is nowhere to be found. This is most likely because of Fami and the artificial nature of it. Denji doesn't seem to mind all too much, but he does question why Yoshida hasn't done anything. And this guy pulls out a phone. He has one too. Turns out you can't actually do anything anyway because the signal can't get out, and this is where you find out that time has been stopped. But the way he pulls it out is just super smug, like he is trying to instigate something more, or that he's seeking something more. You get a couple of little panels of everyone giving up, the rumored Kobeni sibling licking condensation off the glass, the eye patch dude boxing in the hallway. Everyone's kind of just losing themselves. But the weirdest thing is just completely out there, and I'm thrown off by this because I'm like, okay, why even bring this up? This is what Yoshida says, and I quote, "Do you think Chainsaw Man would eat it for us, the Death Devil?" I'm gonna be honest, I don't think there is any reason whatsoever for Yoshida to say this. I don't know why he would say it now. You could easily argue that the implication of them starving to death in the Eternity Devil is enough to bring this up, but the Death Devil itself, the smugness of Yoshida and like the murkiness surrounding him makes me think that there is more here. So there's more meaning to the slight build up towards the Death Devil than you would actually think. If I were to guess what Yoshida's plan is right now, I think whatever organization he's with wants to kill death, or wants to capture it or fight it or rewrite it, whatever it may be, right? Maybe similar to Makima in a way. Maybe it's people that want to replicate or continue what Makima was doing. I don't know. How he says it, how he operates is just sus. It's just weird. I'm not comfortable with it. I want to know what he's up to. Why even mention the Death Devil like this for someone that seems so infamous? Theoretically, this could be one of the most powerful devils to exist, or one of the weakest, depending on how you look at it. But there is a lot more to death than one would think. The best example I can give you is that Yoshida doesn't seem to be afraid of death because he's made peace with it. That doesn't negate the rest of the world and their fear towards it, but that's just an example of how it can easily be bypassed in such ways. So the question, are people really scared of death, or are they scared of what comes after? Are they scared of the pain that's associated with it? And that obviously correlates to the power. So what is Yoshida's true plan? I don't know, but I think there definitely is more here. And just with how we're being revealed to things, this feels like the start of something far more desperate. To end of this chapter, you get probably the heart, the core, the juiciest bit, and it is a very sincere conversation between Asa and Denji. Thought-provoking, kind, relatable, just everything that is just painful surrounding Asa and the conflict that she has towards this situation. I love this. Even though it's coming at a time where she's starving and almost on the brink of death, it's opened her eyes a lot more to Denji and the situation in itself, showing her true colors, I should say. This is how she always was, that she was never going to do the things that she wanted to do or that she felt empowered to do. So it's both funny and sad that you look at this character now of Asa and then go back a handful of chapters with the confidence that she has, and it's night and day. She apologizes. She confesses to what she was going to do, and she even explains that she has no idea of what's right or wrong, and that her life is just one long string of attempts to avoid making mistakes. This type of honesty does not come often, and obviously, like I was saying, the situation and what it's pushing her to do, this makes sense. It's very upsetting to see her like this, but it does so much more for her character. See, even if you knew all of this already, even though we got bits and pieces pieces and fractional elements of it to build the idea, her expressing it so openly and freely is such a compelling moment, especially to Denji of all people. She feels comfortable enough within this moment to express her deepest, darkest, scariest thing about herself, that she doesn't know how it operates or how insecure it overall makes her, to the person that she supposedly thinks is a loser and hates. If this isn't an indication that there is a bit of comfort, a bit of truth, a bit of herself within Denji, that she can confide in him, not in the supportive way, but in a I can be myself type of way, this is it. And I was saying this in the previous episode, that even though they have a toxic relationship, Asa is only ever herself with Denji. She doesn't try to figure out what's right or wrong, and funny enough, Denji is exactly the same. It's the beauty of it. Denji doesn't have the best concept of what's right or wrong after, considering where he's come from, but he's not seeking it. Denji on one hand doesn't care about making mistakes, but Asa does. So what better way to put them two on the same platform and agree to disagree and meet in the middle? They fit perfectly together in this concept alone. And even if it was never romantic, which I think it will be in the future, it still does so much to build both of their characters forward. You see, with this conversation, you're also building Denji at the exact same time. At least you would think, because funny enough, he actually wasn't listening. He didn't hear this beautiful speech at all, and just says, what are you muttering to yourself about? You can't eat fish? Ta-da, let's try some starfish. Ending off the chapter there is rough, but a perfect place to do it. But I just want to say that him cutting Asa off feels very intentional. Even though your first read through may feel like it's silly or playful, or just, oh, that's Denji being Denji, I feel it's very intentional for Denji to bypass all of the problems, to take away the stress and anxiety of overthinking something and just focusing on the now. And while that may not be Denji's intention, Asa may actually see it like that. I don't know why it only clicked for me the second time going through it, but Denji is able to sway Asa's emotions very easily, both in good ways and bad ways, and I feel like this is a good way. She was very depressed, she was very anxious, she was very all over the place, and this is a healthy thing to do. But Denji didn't play into it. He didn't bring out the rights or wrongs or how she's messed up, but instead simplified it. Instead brought her out of that kind of self-observation of herself and focused on something else entirely. And sometimes that's a very difficult thing to do for people. You have to be very powerful, very convincing, especially in a time of desperation and need. Denji has that sway, and it's a very addicting one. Asa might appreciate this, but she also might flip her switch and get angry, but still, that is a good response. Instead of her being in her head and spiraling down this depressive state, she's now kind of within the moment, with someone that easily kind of just exists or vibes on the same frequency 24/7. A great way to end the chapter, a beautiful amount of dialogue, and a lot of mystery surrounding everything. Small, sweet, simple. We do have another chapter next week. I also want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you all were safe, had fun, got all the gifts that you wanted and deserve. Be safe going into the new year, and thank you for all of the amazing support that you have given me. I am thankful. I appreciate you. I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you very much. But let me know how you felt about this chapter right now. Thank you.